Hello everyone, welcome to another video analysis by me, Kozan. Today we're watching Seoul Dynasty versus Dallas Fuel on Anubis. Why this map? Well, I like to watch Seoul again because I find it really helpful to stick around watching the same team and analyzing them a little bit, just so you kind of see the variables within their play and you know where they deviate, so you get a more in-depth look into their decision making. Also, they're great players, of course. They have great strategies, ult economy, great coaching there. And it's just a joy to watch this match. Also, because this match went on for a couple of rounds, we get to see the tiny adjustments and decision making going on between each round, right? So reacting to what they saw the first time. Now let's hop into top down so we can see how these teams are planning to take this match. Dallas up top here with the Roadhog, D.Va, Orisa, Lucio, Mercy, Widow comp. It's a very beefy brawly comp. Of course, these five will try to get onto the point, make a big distraction, a big mess, try to get a force a fight over there, be as far back as possible so they can fall back out of that line of sight over there. While Effect kind of finds a good flank either over here or over here. Obviously, he can't be up here right now because he will be in a fight with Fleta, who does still have the Orisa shield. So it's kind of up to Effect to find a good flank. He can also be over here in this little room, try to find line of sight onto Jaehyung or anybody up here on this high ground. He kind of has to play with that. We're going to see that work out now. The Seoul is set up on the other side, of course. They have the big tank set up with the protecting the Widow over here, making it possible for him to be there. Jaehyung on the other side, whenever there's trouble, like if there's ever a dive on top of this, it's very easy for Mercy and Widow to go over there. In case there's ever a dive on top of here, it's very easy for Miro to kind of stop it with Halt, or for Zumba. For Zumba to fly in there. Fleta has line of sight, of course. Toby can fly over, and Munchkin as well. Very easy for him to follow up on that, or already be on a flank as soon as they dive away from there. Instead, we see this beefy ball from Dallas. They're gonna try to run in as quickly as possible, and let's see what happens. So Dallas just pushing for ground here. They're gonna wait up. Chips getting clipped there, very hard to get the Mercy, of course, with so many tanks around, but Fleta almost getting her there. They're gonna wait up for health, Lucio speed, and even gonna push out Munchkin over there from the flank. Orisa's halt ability, very important for Zumba to eat those, not let his team get pulled off the high ground. Effect pushed out Jaehyung and Munchkin over here. As we can see, Jaehyung pretty low right now, out of position, somewhere walk this way and then drop down onto point, trying to get over there. Unfortunately, the Dallas Fuel team is moving it, and at the same time, what I want you to look at is Effect's movement here, kind of baiting the shots of Fleta, then noticing Fleta is shooting elsewhere, and then going out for a real shot. As the Dallas team is running in, Harry Hook getting the finish on Jaehyung on point right now. As Effect is still shooting the D.Va. Look for as soon as they turn around and start shooting him, he goes as back deep into the little pokehole as possible, calls it out to his friends, and Mickey and Toby jump up there to help him out. So Dallas, by pressuring this front, now get two easy picks on the point with the big force that's moving in. Munchkin and Jaehyung trying to retreat that way. Also, because Zumba's jumping in here, Mickey and Effect get a really easy collapse in him, and the fight is pretty much won for this point for Dallas Fuel. So I think Seoul's reasoning here was that they lost too many people to do a proper regroup to get a contest later on, and maybe a proper fight then. So they just drop in one by one to die quickly on point and have a good proper regroup onto the second before the steamroll gets too big. Also, wow. So for second point, we see a couple of changes. We see both the tanks switching from Orisa into Winston. Of course, it's a little bit easier to finish off those kills, to stop them from contesting, and also, of course, it's easier to be a nuisance as Winston and keep contesting for a longer period. Okay, so also we have Time Move switching from Roadhog into the Reaper. We have Fleta from Widow into the Genji. Both characters a little bit more capable of diving with their team. Now, what's important to note here, it seems like Seoul is a little bit flustered right from the get-go, seeing how that first point went, and they aren't really in great positions right now for what's about to happen. They are trying to contest this tunnel area, they've got two people in there. I'm not sure if that's the best move. They've got both the tanks here kind of in the middle. It's alright, but they don't have anyone really here contesting these areas. where they, you know, they could have people set up and then easily be able to go back and just, you know, not give as much free ground to the enemy, especially because effect is still on the Widow, so they need to be able to deny ground for him. Because look at how much line of sight they're giving him for free right now, even when he has his ult up. And nobody's really in a good position to dive him. Both DPS in the tunnel, the tanks are kind of in the middle. Maybe they can dive him, but instead maybe they don't even see him right now. But instead they decide to go for a dive on the kind of deathball dive from Dallas. And they get punished hard right here. Also good to note is there's barely any ultimates, right? Because the first point went so quickly. Even the support ultimates are gonna have a hard time to get them up. Zumba trying to chase chips, but almost gets him. So Effect doesn't need long to fulfill his role on the Widow right here. Manages to secure a pick on Zumba and immediately afterwards also on Fleta. Very nice on the position that he has there. Very doable for him. Also we see a little bit of spread out damage here from Team Seoul. Don't really get to secure the DMAC or a kill on Taimu. This allows Chips to get his ultimate, his Valk, really quickly. Also because of these two picks happening so quickly and instantly, because of Widow of course, and Zumba being a little bit out of position there, Toby has nowhere to charge up his ult. So yeah, Effect putting in more work as the Widow, very nice. Also the rest of the team running into the point, clearing the rest out very easily with the big man advantage that they do have right now, and take a very decisive first round. So for Seoul's attack, they've opted to go for a full diving force here with the Tracer, Genji, D.Va, Winston, Zenyatta and Mercy. They're approaching from two sides, that's so they can see more enemy locations at the same time, so they get more scouting done. What they see basically is the big death ball composition right here from Dallas. They've opted to go for triple DPS with only Mercy on support and hiding behind the Orisa shield. What they kind of want to do with such a comp is try to keep the enemy away from them, from diving them. They can boop them away with the D.Va, of course, with the boosters. Orisa hold, Junkrat bombs, all of that. So Zumba has to be on top of his matrix right here. Effect is even with them on the low ground. This is just in case if Fleta opts to go for Widow here. He needs to be on the low ground just so he doesn't expose himself too much right there. Unfortunately, they don't note it in time. And he kind of misses a nice opportunity, which he would have had to try and snipe the Mercy in the back. Unfortunately, he's a little bit late there to react. So Seoul going in straight for a very aggressive dive here, leading in with the deflect from Fleta and then going with the Matrix from Zumba. Getting themselves onto this point, even Munchkin right there somewhere on the left near the Mega. They're trying to find a pick on Harry Hook or Taimu there, but first they got to deal with the altogether with the Junkrat trap. So Dallas doing a good job at holding off Seoul, already demacking Zumba, so good targeting. Also really cool to note here, Harry Hook rushing to the middle whenever they're dove upon, putting out a healing pot and supporting everyone that way. Here we get to see some good communicating from Seoul as well. Miro jumping the Widow at the same time, Fleta immediately going up in this position again. Not completely sure why these two DPS are still here. Both tanks already had fallen back to the point, trying to hold them more further back area. This team would do a lot better to stick together. And right now they are in between two DPS, getting punished for this. Of course, Seoul, even though they got Suma demacked earlier on, still going heavy for this fight because of the closer respawns and Suma maybe even getting his back. Fleta barely escaping right now, isn't able to pressure Effect no longer, now again is free to shoot in that little corner over there. Zumba on the high ground as Mini D.Va, still providing a point of advantage for Toby to fly towards. Also a little bit easier to get that Mac back over there. Jaeyoung over here, also another point for Toby to fly to, and then Fleta over here of course. So really, really good points. And then Miro and Munchkin pushing in from the bottom. Of course, Effect being Effect though, manages to get Mini D.Va right there, and also straight afterwards Zenyatta. Two very important picks for this fight to make a comeback right here. The rest is used on Zumba to try and get his mech back, but unfortunately at the same time, Fleta as well is in this trap right here. He's going to get picked down very soon as well. And unfortunately he doesn't get to finish off Taimu right there. Now Seoul does try to still make something work here, but once Chip uses Valk, they back off and take their position for the next push. So the second attack for Seoul goes a whole lot better, simply because Munchkin over here in the top does a whole lot of distressing for Dallas. A lot of them try to chase him down. They don't get him, unfortunately, though, but they do get pretty much the entire team of Dallas looking that way. Meanwhile, the Seoul tanks manage to sneak inside over here. Vlada manages to grab the other flank. Both healers still at the front. Both together, of course, hard to really get them then. Yeah, and basically they're looking for a dive onto Effect. And as they're set up right now, it's really difficult for Effect to get away, right? First, they're gonna send in the tanks. They dive on top of here. They cause them to kind of scatter and try to dive away. Of course, Effect on Widow has a hook. If Effect goes this way, Munchkin is there. If he goes that way, Vlada is there. So he decides to go right here in the middle, which isn't really the best spot for Widow to be at this point. Right in the dead center. And yeah, Vlada still manages to get right on top of him. Also, another thing to note, of course, Chips doesn't have his Valk right now. And there's a whole lot of ults coming up for Seoul. But Seoul, being Seoul, they're very disciplined with their ultimates. They only use Vlada's ultimate right here. And they know that Dallas does not have a support ult to counter it. Okay, so there they go in the dive. Zumba taking a little bit of damage is going to reavert his path and just take cover line of sighting Harry Hook there. Vlada right on top of Effect and farming up his ult. Both supports of Seoul coming in right now as well. Seoul knows they need to make up for time on the second point because it took him a while with the first attack failing. So Vlada killing now in more than enough people. Also Miro managing to finish off Chips. Seoul, again, right, with the discipline. Even though Harry Hook is killing the supports, they're not using those ultimates. They have respawn advantage. They will definitely get this fight right now. So Seoul taking the first point on the second attack, it's alright. It's not as good as Dallas did, of course, but they have 5 ultimates stacked up right now, ready to use, and especially because Dallas right now making 2 changes to their roster, so that's 2 ultimates they definitely do not have right now. Harry Hook on the Zenyatta, of course, previously on the Soldier. Effect on the Tracer, who's right now over here up top already. Used to be Widow, of course. Effect trying to poke in the back with this position. Mickey is in a great position over here as well, just kind of contesting this area, making it more difficult for them to flank there without them knowing. Also, it's of course obviously easy for him to jump over here again and be back in the line of sight of his healers. The only kind of problem I have right now with Dallas is that the clump of these 2 guys, like Zenyatta, can kind of be over here. That's alright. He has the long range on his orbs. You know, he can use those things 40 meters away, so it's doable for him to be over here, making it easy to fall back into the spawn as well when needed or necessary. But yeah, the Junkrat, Mercy, and Orisa are a little bit disconnected over here. And we're gonna see Seoul punishing this in a moment. So we see a couple of things here. First of all, Miro jumping in kind of solo. He has Vlada there, but of course Zumba isn't there to matrix him as he jumps. We basically see him pretty much only do this when he has his ult available, like this to open up anyway. Why he jumps over here as well, a great way to line of sight, of course. Unfortunately, Mickey and XQC are already over here. We can kind of see as well, right, the positioning again. XQC's ult not reaching anybody that's over there in that corner. If Junkrat was more around this pillar over here, still he would be able to help out Sen if he ever was dove upon, and you know, he would benefit more greatly from Orisa's shield over here. Anyway, that aside, Miro jumping in here, scouting around and noting the big clump of units over there in the corner. Zumba already in this corner over here, or I guess over there somewhere. He also has his ult, of course, and ready to just shoot it out and disconnect these 2 clumps of units, XQC and the rest of his team. So there it is, Zumba's ult, forcing everybody away from over this area, and now Seoul not only getting the Zenyatta because it was a little bit too far away from the corner, but also anybody that's still on this side, right? Anybody that's still on this side. They can keep on resin, keep on healing, and they are fighting versus no res or no Valk. And that's quite a decisive way to end the fight this way. So not the biggest fan of this tire right here. It kind of was the only ult Dallas had at this point, and trying to blow up one solo monkey. In my opinion, like, it would have gotten down a lot earlier, maybe if he hadn't tried to go for this pick, but you know, there's still Valk up. The second res is still there, and I think this would have been like the one play he could have made, or Dallas could have made, right, to try and hold off this one push. Now Seoul free to do whatever they want. They have the initial pick, allowed by the D.Va ult, of course, and they still have Valk up, healing up, the DPS free to roam, and taking a decisive point 2. So Seoul is the first one to get to attack as seconds. Here's just a quick reminder: they're pretty much set up as the same way again, right? The triple DPS, only Mercy there. Okay. Seoul just scouting here with the D.Va Matrix. Zumba just now recharging it afterwards, of course. They noticed that they're running against the same comp, and once they've noted that, they're just gonna dive in very hard here and have really good targeting. In fact, reading the situation correctly, throwing down a quick mine. Just a quick side note how Seoul always dives with the tanks on the side, Munchkin even further on the side, and Flat Out right there in the middle. Really a clutch shot that just barely misses. Could have stopped this push. Miro, of course, a smart player, lands behind here, just makes this area completely unavailable for the Widow and doesn't go for a 1v1. He's not completely sure he can win. Also, of course, very good for Seoul trading 1v1 here with the respawn advantage. That's always a good thing. Now, this kill spree is really possible because of the great targeting by Seoul here. First, everybody who targets the soldiers here, Harry Hook. Then everybody targets Taimu. Also, of course, Chips. Not really a lot of places to jump to because they are in this little tiny death ball, and managed to get him as well. And this opened up the floodgates for Seoul to take this point, and the rest of the players of Dallas. Second point, we see a couple of changes. Once more, effect from the Widow, of course, again onto the Tracer right now, and Harry Hook again from Soldier onto the Zenyatta, and XQC on the Winston. Position-wise, we have Dallas, 3 of them. They don't really plan to keep this position, I don't think. They just want to contest it for now and make it hard to deal with. Later on, they're gonna try to fall back. Seoul, although in a good position to try and deal with this, because as we can see here, due to the very good targeting of Seoul, Chips didn't get to do any healing, basically, doesn't have anywhere near assault, and Seoul staying alive through that fight, most of their guys, and now do have Valk up, almost even have Trends. Miro, Zumba, and Flat are all diving in here from different angles at the same time, then backing up again, waiting for their cooldowns, activate Valk at that point, and look for the most diveable target. Seoul probably here identifying that Mickey and Taimu are most likely the only 2 characters which do have their ult, targeting down Mickey here, forcing his ult to be used in a very ineffective way. Also the tire right here, caught by Munchkin, kind of also an ineffective way, right? Because Valk is still up, they still have 2 reses, so they kind of clear out the ultimates this way for Dallas, who are going for a counter dive with their tanks over here. They're going for Jaehong. Unfortunately for them though, he almost has his ult, he gets it barely out in time, and the tanks get punished hard here for Dallas. Seoul gets the breeze on through and take this second point rather easily. Now, second attack for Dallas. Once again, they've opted to go for the triple tank with the Widow comp. The Widow is going to be very effective this time. Also, of course, bringing with them the Lucio for the speed boost, and the Mercy there, of course, Mercy. Yeah, and the other side, Seoul is set up all with a dive comp this time. It doesn't really work out extremely well for them, but you can kind of see what their idea is of how they want to try to do this. Especially Munchkin over here in the little corner. Note him scouting around, making sure that they are actually running what they are expecting. Jaehong, I just pointed it out over there on the little balcony area where he was previously. And let's see how this works out for Dallas. So Seoul going in there for a very aggressive dive, immediately taking down chips on the Mercy, trying to target down Harry Hook afterwards on the Lucio. Unfortunately, they do not get him completely. With a slither amount of HP, he survives. Also, Munchkin, we will note right now, tries to go after him a little bit too aggressively, stays a little bit too long, so his recall doesn't take him too far off the point, and he doesn't have too many blinks anymore to escape. So he actually gets himself killed trying to hunt down Lucio. And Lucio, obviously, he would have died a lot earlier had Fleda been here. Of course, Fleda has to be somewhere near the main gate or near the Mega Room, because that's where Effect is. And Effect, as we can see, getting a great shot on Jaehyung. So, already in a short amount of time, right? So, Dallas already up ahead in the score, even though they lost Mercy. Especially because of that hook on Taimu as well, of course, getting Zuma there and also getting Munchkin afterwards. So a very, very clean fight on the first point, once more for Dallas. So for the second attack, I'm not going to go too much into it. Seoul kind of does something funny with Sombra to try and stall, but it's not too much we're not going to see in a later round. Also, it kind of feels like Seoul kind of just stacked themselves too heavily onto the first point. Afterwards, disrespecting Widow Effect here, of course. Toby getting punished hard. Also, they're a little bit too far forward with too much of their reinforcements still coming back from the spawn, it feels like. And then it just devolves into this big beefy brawl where Dallas their composition just excels at. So let's move on to the third attack of Seoul. Right here from the get-go, we're already almost mid-dive. We can see a couple of changes from Team Dallas. The DPS are now a little bit further away on the bridge, making it more difficult to get the jump on them on either side. Effect is already up on the high ground, so he gets a couple of extra shots on the back line from a better angle. Also, Mickey right here is on the low ground. He's going to try to make it more difficult for the enemy tanks to jump right on top of his back line by just jumping up himself over here and booping them away. Now, there's one tiny lucky thing I want to point out here. That kind of happens, unfortunately, for Dallas, which happens right here. As we can see, Chips getting a lot of burst here. Unfortunately for him, Flada just did a deflect over here, deflecting Harry Hook's his soldier shot, killing Junkrat, and then before Flada used his deflect already, the dash, already his deflect managed to deflect a couple of these Junkrat death bombs, which Chips just flew into in desperation to go and heal Taimu. So getting a very easy second pick here and steamrolling this push very quickly. After taking the first point with really only one fight, won by Seoul, obviously they right now are in the lead with their ultimates, charging up right there. Now quickly charging up for the ground as well. On the second point, Miro already up here. We have Flada on the side and the other side covered by Munchkin, making sure they cover all these areas. They see where the enemy is this way. They know where the flankers are. Zumba, Jaehyung and Toby all still in the back, moving along with Jaehyung. Obviously, we see right now, well, not obviously, we have Dallas making a switch onto Sombra. Taimu, one of the first ones to die. Right now, already in the back, Zumba moving along with Jaehyung so he doesn't get one-clipped as easily by the invisible Sombra. So that's a good team movement. They're going to just push up here. I'm not completely sure what's happening to Jaehyung in his positioning. I think he's just trying to make it more difficult for Taimu to get him over here. But now because Jaehyung is still very dislocated from his team, Dallas has an opportunity where they shortly have a brief moment where they still have the Discord available to them and Seoul does not have their Discord available. So Dallas is going to be able to do a whole lot more burst damage than Seoul actually is able to do here, and within that short brief moment Dallas manages to get capitalize and get a big enough lead to snowball this into a defend for this second point. Seoul's second attack is going to be met with a heck of a lot of ultimates from both sides, as we can clearly see here. It's going to be a big battle that's going to go on for a while with the amount of support ultimates that are up. So it looks like Dallas is aware of this and wants to try and force a fight here. They're going to dive with a couple of people in front of the point, way in front of the point, and jump the Zenyatta here, Jaehyung, unfortunately for him. Try and force his ultimate and then later on have a better EMP and other ultimates, of course, onto the point. In comes Dallas, and here that goes, successfully forcing the Zen ult. Unfortunately though for them, this is a very clutch kill, picking off the XQC here, and it's gonna allow Seoul to take the initiative here. Now a couple of things happen here, which are important to note out. Jaehong first of all working together with Munchkin to take down Effect in that back, so getting that second pick, very good, keeping that momentum going. Second thing that happens, Harry hooked overpon in the back by Fleda and Miro from over here. Miro already ready with his ults, gonna get them for sure. XQC is rezzed way in the back over there. Taimu at this time also now moving in over to this corner, trying to get an EMP off. Unfortunately for him, the only persons that are there are Jaehong, Munchkin and Toby. Toby of course still in Valk, so he's gonna keep those guys alive, except for Munchkin. Actually he does die, but of course they have res, so he gets to go back up again. But this EMP is really unfortunate for Dallas Fuel, which could have helped them with a lot of grief. Right now Fleda goes for this blade, which doesn't work out great either, but it gets the transcendence, right? So that's already worth. They needed to deal with that, and that's out now. Okay, Zuma gets demacked, so you know it's kind of trending upwards now for them. But this is where Munchkin gets already, because like this brawl has been going on for a little while. Munchkin getting on the flank again and managing to take down Harry Hook. Also chips, Effect going down here, no, using the recall just in time. So farming up these skills. Anyway, what I want to point out, the moment that EMP was used kind of opened up this point for Seoul to come in. And if they only just kind of played a little bit more with the EMP together, they would have done a lot better, right? If they had a lot more follow-up, maybe if they had more people on the point to follow up with them. Maybe if they used it after Valk had ended, that could have helped as well. Or at least at a point where it's hard for them to res, but that kind of was the end for Dallas in this round. So we've arrived at the third time defending for Seoul right now. Again, they've opted to go for the Widow Orisa strat up here. The change they made is Jaehong over here on this side right now. It's a little bit harder for him to get sniped by the Widow this way. They don't have the way to jump back anymore, but it's less necessary, I suppose, against a force that doesn't really dive on top of you. It just kind of wants to stay on the low ground over here, so it's not really necessary for him to be over there anyway. Munchkin's still over here though. They remembered Effect going this way previously, and he's still there to try and snipe him down. We're going to see that happen in a moment. We know what Dallas is planning right here, so let's see how Seoul pulls this off this time. Dallas smartly checking whether or not they can get a quick pick on Fleda if he's flanking around too quickly. XQC now a little bit dislocated from his team. Fleda already in position behind him, gets a headshot and then quickly finished off by Zumba. Now without a shield and Effects already taken down by Munchkin, this team of Dallas has not really a good chance of staying alive here and quickly gets deleted by Seoul. Second time around, Dallas gets to attack this first point. Effect is already in sight, which has been noticed by Seoul, so Fleda is already looking away on this side, making sure that Effect doesn't get a drop on him on this side, on the flank, which allows Dallas to walk in a whole lot more easily without a Widow continuously poking at them. Effect trying to snipe at the location he knows that Jaehong likes to be here. Right now he dropped off this high ground when they were cleaning up the points and went back up to here. Munchkin over there to protect him again. Fortunately for him, he's been burdened off now by Effect on this time in this area. So he's way back now inside of this little area up until he certainly knows that he can come out. So Effect not only pushing Jaehong back here, but also keeping Fleda from taking the flank around. Fleda using his ult and pushing Effect away though out of this position. Now Effect in the middle of it all, kind of not the best position for Widow to be at. Also Zumba had dropped his ultimate, forcing the Dallas team off the point and making them very susceptible to being picked down. So we're gonna see this Seoul defense on Anubis first point being pulled off successfully one more time. I just want to reiterate kind of the points that are important to do here to note. First of all, Seoul of course wants to take down Effect. The only person that can be away from the point and making Fleda Very difficult to try and turn around and get the flank on the team as they're trying to put on the point. Also, what's important is that XQC gets eliminated quite quickly, so they do not have that shield, just continuously making it impossible for Fledder to do his job. And that's why we have Munchkin also kind of in the front, trying to help out, killing Effect very quickly. Did that a couple of times, of course, as we've seen. Anyway, afterwards, Munchkin will be able to just go into the point and contest with Zumba. One by one, you'll see them go onto points. Even if Jaehyung has his ult, he'll also be up there, ready to contest the point, so that they can kind of rotate there. Also, another really important thing to note, of course, if Fledder does take this position, he needs to be aware of the respawn timers of Dallas, especially Effect, of course. Effect most likely going to be the first one to be taken down, so he only has a limited time before Effect respawns behind him and gets a really easy shot on him. So let's see this go one more time. Effect again trying to position himself to stop Fledder from flanking. Fledder though aware of this and making Toby come with him, getting the easy 1v1 here. Immediately setting up afterwards near the corpse, trying to get a lucky shot onto Chips as well, in case he tries to go for the res. Taking a bit of a risky path, but still getting in his prime flanking position. Fledder once more with his ultimate up notes the enemy Widow position and notices that he's clear to shoot whatever's on the point. Jaehyung getting rest, immediately using his Transcendence to contest the point, and then retreating backwards to this location over here. Stays here until the fight is over, and then he can go back up to his normal spot. As we can see as well, by the way, good thing to point out, every time Zumba retreats, he uses this pathway, so everything that chases him will have to expose themselves to Fleta. Also, one thing to really watch out for in the moments to come, Jaehyung shooting right now into the area where Effect is, basically just holding him back, pushing him back, gonna get him low, calls it out, and then Toby, with the last bit of his Valk, is gonna be able to fly in there and finish off Effect. Now with the 1-1 trade, it's very easy for Fledder just to put in his work. There's nothing anymore that can contest him. He's just putting in all the damage, and his soul can come in to clean up the point. Still have to be careful, of course. They do target down Harry Hook very effectively here by Zumba. Zumba, though, getting hooked, so also getting taken down. But fortunately for Seoul, Chips is going to spend some time rezzing Harry Hook, and that gives the opportunity to really clean up effectively here for Seoul. Finally, we've arrived at the final push. There was one push in between this that I want to point out. I've cut it out because it was just Fledder being amazing on Widow and stopping Dallas dead in their tracks. So now Dallas with just one more attack incoming. They have 10 seconds on the clock right now. They're at the front door and they made a full switch to dive comp. Right now they have XQC on Winston. Of course, Effect switching to Genji. As we can see, he already managed to farm up a little bit of ult there. Chips still has his ult. Toby has his ult. Jaehyung has his ult. So it's a little bit dangerous. Zumba also still has that ult, so he can still contest that first point very well. But this is where we see Dallas take the first point very nicely. So let's try to see how they do it. Very early on, we see Chips using Valk, trying to avoid being shot by Fledder, of course. And we see these two tanks from Dallas jumping by this point, basically. Contesting it, making it hard for Fledder to use this area. Fledder is already backing up right now, but the tanks are just kind of flying by. They're going to drop back down again immediately and find a kill on Jaehyung. So a very even fight still. Both teams having Valk available, both getting one pick. Of course, the pulse bomb being traded for that's maybe a little bit less value than just having your entire team collapse on one person. Jaehyung, again, once more, not using Transcendence when there's still Valk res available. That's something to point out, I feel like. And now the next thing to really watch for here is the movement of Effect. Effect first coming in with his team, and now as Fledder is using this time to try and find a flank, Effect immediately gonna try and follow up on that flank route and try to intercept. And also, meanwhile, when he does that, they get Munchkin. So once more, the tanks of Dallas, they flew by over here, went by, just made it impossible for Fledder to really get a lot of shots. They found a kill on Jaehyung afterwards, immediately moved to intercept Fledder on the regular path that he always takes. And this opens up the entire point, or at least an opening for Team Dallas, where they have the lead. That combined with Jaehyung kind of misusing his ultimate a little bit too early here, probably trying to save Zumba. Zumba's still getting the mech though, and straight afterwards Effect already ready with the blade, maybe a little bit unexpected for Seoul, and yeah, the nail in the coffin here for the first point. Coming into the second point, both teams realize that this most likely will be just one fight that will decide this match right now. And if you look at just the ultimate status, you'd say that Dallas is in a really good position to take this one. Unfortunately for them, Seoul also realizes that this will most likely be the final fight, and they just used both their support ultimates. And this made them realize that they actually do have the opportunity to change right now. They won't get another Valk out most likely, so they opt to get Anna. They have Jaehyung, so they can get a lot of value out of those purple flasks and sleeps. So that's what they decide to go for instead right now, because they obviously can't get another Valk out with only one fight remaining. Fleda right now also changing from Widow, of course, into the Reaper. A little bit better in this restricted space where Widow can't get as much area or, a real flank around. So Reaper does a whole lot better here. Let's see how this fight just kind of goes. So Dallas going in quite aggressively, as we can see here, but in response, as we can see as well, Seoul being very aggressive themselves. They are already zoning out effects out of this fight, basically, and also are in the back trying to demag Mickey as soon as they can. Another thing to point out right now, what I thought was going to happen, XQC with his ult was going to try to go in again, scout out the area, and then maybe Mickey would be able to shoot his mech out. Unfortunately for them, that doesn't really happen. Seoul two on top of things already, right on top of the back line, not really giving the opportunity to do that. And yeah, one more thing, Taimu of course now using his ult, so we're going to see this team of Seoul kind of taking cover there. Fleda on the other side though, he just used Shade, so he's just kind of fucked. So this is where we see Mickey already having been demaxed, having to use his ultimate right on top of the point. It's stationary, unfortunately. XQC right now not in the greatest position to pop his ult and try to boop any supports that are on the corner more into here. So they kind of miss a combo here, unfortunately. And it allows Seoul to slowly start coming back with this. What's noticeable, or very noticeable in the rest of this fight, is the HP bars of Seoul. They're all going very low, so they're all going in for to contest, but they're mostly preoccupied with staying alive so that they actually can, once they are grouped up again, snowball this back into their favor. But still continuously busy trying to contest this point while they're doing so. Last thing I kind of want to point out here for Seoul's side is their target prioritization. As they stay alive this entire time, they have not put any damage on XQC here at all. They've only targeted down the characters they knew they could take down. XQC, they realized that he had this also. If they had actually forced some damage onto XQC, he probably would have just ulted. He'd been in a great position, and maybe they wouldn't have been able to finish off some kills here and actually start this push to steamroll back into their favor. And because of this target prioritization, yeah, they actually take it back here. So major props to Seoul. Alright guys, that was the end of this analysis of this entire match. This will be the last video I do like this, taking an entire match and going step by step by what's going on in through the match. I will be changing my formatting a little bit. I'll keep you up to post when I know more, or you'll see it once I send out a new video. If you liked the video, hit that like button. If you want to subscribe, make sure to do so. I would appreciate it enormously. I also have Twitch and a Discord server. Links are down below. The Discord server is basically only there for people that they can send in VOD reviews for me to review, and I will try my best to give you some tips on how to improve. Alright, that was it then guys. Thank you for watching, and as always, have a good one. Bye bye.